Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. Ancient Egypt was all about tradition, gods carved in stone, pharaohs buried in gold, and rules that lasted thousands of years. But then, one pharaoh said, "No more gods, just one, and I'm his chosen one." Welcome to the Amarna Period, the ancient Egyptian version of a political thriller, family drama, and religious revolution all rolled into one. Let's talk about Akhenaten, the pharaoh who broke the system and nearly got deleted from history. In ancient Egypt, the pharaoh was more than a ruler. He was a living god. When the new kingdom exploded onto the scene around 1543 BCE, Egypt became a serious world power. Pharaohs built giant temples to show off their might. They amassed massive tombs filled with treasures. They led armies across the Near East. They commissioned beautiful art to tell their stories. Basically, it was the Egyptian version of going viral. It worked for hundreds of years, but by the 14th century BCE, things started to feel stale. Kinda like how Gen Z feels about TikTok these days. Maybe it was time for something new. Enter Akhenaten. Akhenaten was originally named Amenhotep IV. He came from the powerful 18th dynasty, the same dynasty as the legendary Queen Hatshepsut and King Tut. Akhenaten came to the throne around 1353 BCE when Egypt was rich, stable, and at peace. He spent his early years ruling like a traditional pharaoh. He expanded Egypt's borders. He promoted trade with faraway lands. He built temples to Amun and other Egyptian gods. He loved art, too. Thousands of carvings and paintings show him smiting enemies, hunting, playing sports, hanging out with his peeps. In short, he looked like your average Egyptian ruler, building temples, worshipping the gods, especially Amun, the king of the gods. But around year 5 of his reign, something snapped. You know those moments in a good thriller movie when the protagonist walks down a dark alley, the shadows seem extra dark, and you know something's about to happen. Yeah, that's kind of how history works. You see small changes happening for decades. Then suddenly, boom, everything shifts. History's not linear. Sometimes it's non-linear. People call it a paradigm shift. And that's exactly what happened in the 12th year of Akhenaten's rule. That's when he threw Egypt's history into overdrive. He changed his name to Akhenaten, meaning effective for Aten. Aten wasn't just any god. It was the sun disk itself, a glowing circle in the sky. And Akhenaten said, "Forget Amun, forget all the other gods. There's only Aten, one god, period." That's like if a pope declared Christianity obsolete and said, "We worship the sun now, and I'm the only one who can talk to it." Akhenaten didn't just stop at religion. He went full revolution mode. He ordered a brand new capital city, Akhenaten, horizon of the Aten, built from scratch in the middle of the desert. Why? Because the old cities, Thebes, Memphis, were full of temples to the old gods. He wanted a clean slate. This city was unlike anything Egypt had seen. Wide open spaces, sunlight everywhere. No temples to Amun, Osiris, or Isis. Just Aten. And Akhenaten made sure everyone knew who was boss. He flooded the city with statues and carvings of himself. Not looking like the buff, idealized pharaohs of old, but weirdly real. Long face, big lips, skinny arms, wide hips, almost alien. Was he sick? Was it symbolism? Was it just his style? To this day, no one knows for sure. But Akhenaten didn't stop with the statues. He also picked up a paintbrush. Literally. Instead of hiring scribes to carve official records, he took notes himself. On plaster walls, all across the city, they found pages and pages of what looks like his handwriting. He wrote about farming projects, taxes, temple plans, even love poems to his wife. It's almost surreal to see such a powerful figure writing in what looks like everyday language. But that wasn't the only way he shook things up. In many ways, Akhenaten was Egypt's first influencer. He loved publicity. He commissioned artists to make huge reliefs and carvings showing himself, his wife, his kids, and his family tree. They're often shown dancing, playing games, being super chill. Overall, the vibe is very different from traditional Egyptian art. Normally, pharaohs were shown smiting enemies and looking super buff, but Akhenaten preferred a more natural look. He's shown holding hands with Nefertiti, their daughters, and even his parents. In one famous carving, he's nursing a baby. Yep, you heard right. A male Egyptian pharaoh nursing a baby. You won't find that in any other civilization's art. It's downright scandalous. For the time, it shows how Akhenaten wanted to portray himself and Egypt as progressive, open-minded, totally unique. And we can't talk about Akhenaten without mentioning the most mysterious woman in ancient Egypt, Nefertiti. Yes, that Nefertiti, the one with the iconic blue crown. When German archaeologists uncovered her bust in 1912, it caused a sensation. It's one of the most beautiful sculptures in history. But what was she thinking? What was she saying? Sadly, we don't know. We do know that she wasn't just a pretty face. She ruled with Akhenaten. In fact, in some art she's shown smiting enemies and offering to Aten just like the king. They had 6 daughters together. And unlike traditional Egyptian art, where the royal family looked untouchably divine, Amarna art showed them doing human stuff. Eating, playing with their kids, hugging. It was strangely intimate. But behind the domestic vibe there was chaos. Priests of the old gods, furious. Common Egyptians, confused. Akhenaten didn't care. He doubled down on Aten, but the cracks were forming. As Akhenaten's reign dragged on, things got weirder. The art became more abstract. The palaces were harder to navigate. The temples were downright confusing. Most Egyptians couldn't read Akhenaten's handwriting. And worst of all, he spent little time on the essentials, like running Egypt. By the time he died around 1336 BCE, Egypt was in shambles. He'd neglected foreign policy. Egypt's empire was crumbling. The economy? Not great, and worse. The religious system that had held Egypt together for centuries was in tatters. So what did the new rulers do? They erased him. Literally, his son, yes, King Tutankhamun, changed his name from Tutankhaten to Tutankhamun. He moved the capital back to Thebes. He restored the old gods. And Akhenaten, they smashed his statues, chiseled his name out of walls, and left his city to rot in the sand. Today, the ruins of Amarna are a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Archaeologists have uncovered countless secrets, from ordinary folk to elite officials. They found ordinary people, scribes, artisans, farmers, and even an elite military force. We discovered evidence of schools, hospitals, entertainment. And while excavations continue, one thing's for sure. Life in Amarna was messy, complicated, and totally unlike any other Egyptian city. Akhenaten nearly vanished from history, but the sand kept his secrets. In the 1800s and 1900s, archaeologists uncovered the ruins of Amarna and began piecing together the story. And what a story! Was Akhenaten a visionary? The first monotheist in history? Was he a madman obsessed with control? Or was he just trying to rewrite the rules and got burned? Some even think Moses may have lived during his time, and that monotheism in Egypt may have influenced biblical history. That's still debated. But what's certain is Akhenaten broke the mold and paid the price. Akhenaten ruled for just 17 years, but in that short time, he flipped Egypt upside down. A rebel, a revolutionary, a mystery, and even though they tried to erase him, the sun still rises on his legacy. If you like this story, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Was Akhenaten a genius ahead of his time, or Egypt's biggest mistake? Thanks so much for watching. Tune in next time for more historical tales. See you.